There are a lot of horror movies that are underappreciated. As a collector myself, I would argue horror as a genre is underappreciated. But today, I want to give you guys 6 horror movies that I feel like deserve way more love and attention than they get. And I hope that by the end of this video, if you weren't too warm on any of these titles, maybe I can change your mind on at least one. Let's get into it. Everybody, it's Nick at the Lost River Drive-In. If you are a horror fan, especially a Halloween fan, this is the channel for you. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. To all of my returning viewers, welcome back. We're here to revisit a kind of series that I started earlier last year. I did a video or two on this. Kind of. I did underrated horror movies. This is underappreciated. And the reason that I mention underappreciated rather than underrated is because some of these movies may have gotten a lot of fanfare. They may have gotten a lot of coverage, and they may have been something that you heard about, quite frequently. But they never received the love that they should have gotten, in my opinion. So I'm going to go. I got 6 of them. I'm starting off with a heavy hitter, one that is definitely controversial for some people. I understand why. But again, for every one of these movies, guys, hear me out, please. First up, Child's Play 2019, the remake of Child's Play. I can get into a million reasons why I love this movie. I can also get into a million reasons why I feel like, well, it didn't need to be remade because you still have Brad Dourif going on as Chucky. But I wasn't upset when they announced this. What I wanted from this movie was take some risks, be different, find ways to separate yourself from the first movie. And I mean, it did that. It absolutely did that. Chucky's origin is completely different. Chucky's motives are completely different. The kills are inventive. They feel fresh. They feel fun. Andy is cast very well in this movie. His mom, Aubrey Plaza, is also cast very well. I believe the relationships in this movie. The only thing with the acting that I don't like is Andy's friend group. I thought they were terribly cringy. But you've got to give credit where credit is due with this movie. How many times do we as horror fans, or just movie fans in general, complain about remakes saying you don't need to rehash a movie that was already good, it didn't need a remake, you didn't need to do that, why'd you waste my time? Well, this movie gave you what you want if an old property is going to be revisited. Revamp it, revitalize it, make it new, make it your own. I love the movie. I love the movie. I've loved it since I saw it in theaters. I just think it's a super fun movie. And it was just fresh enough and new enough and surprising enough to me to where I was like, you know what? I don't care what the general consensus is on this movie because I love this movie and I just feel like it's underappreciated. I feel like people don't appreciate the risks this movie took and the true dedication to trying to be different than the Child's Play that we had all come to know and love. So kudos to Child's Play 2019. That's my first one that I feel like is underappreciated. And again, similar territory here. Although this is a sequel to an older property, it is not a remake. And some people that haven't seen this movie have not seen it because they think it's a remake. Also, it flew under the radar because the marketing for this movie was super weird up until, the 11th hour when they announced what it was actually called. And I feel like it was a mistake. It was cool, but you couldn't really build up the hype for it. And maybe that's why it underperformed. But regardless, that is Blair Witch from, 2016? I think it's 2016. And yes, 2016. Again, I understand the complaints people have with this movie. There's a lot of people that say it's very similar to what they did with the Blair Witch Project. It's not necessary, yada, yada, yada. Now, let me tell you why I feel like it deserves more appreciation from horror fans. Blair Witch did something that we love. It took a property that we loved and it modernized it just enough to where it had its own flavor to where it justified its existence. You get to see things. You didn't get to see anything in the Blair Witch Project. Now, Adam Wingard has talked about how, no, that is not the witch that you're seeing. I don't know what the hell that creepy long-armed thing is, all right? That thing's gross, but you get to see some stuff. You get more like physical things happening aside from just like murmurs and whispering, which is super cool and creepy in the Blair Witch Project. But it feels like the stakes are higher in this movie. You know, you're genuinely worried about what could be around any corner. You get into the mythos a little bit more. We really start to dive into the, basically this is its own realm almost, you know. Time doesn't exist here. It does and it doesn't. It's really weird. It's not the same. It's a mess, you know, if I try to explain all of these things. But if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I think that the movie justifies its existence because it expanded upon some stuff that was very, I don't know, almost like they intentionally didn't in the first film. And I understand why, you know, less is more. And this movie gave us more, but not too much to the point where it was like, oh my God, you're ruining the mystique of the first movie. I don't think this movie did that. So I really enjoy Blair Witch 2016. I always have since I saw it in theaters. The ending of that movie too, I think, is, you know, the whole climax is super, super eerie and creepy and suspenseful. So I think that's a movie that deserves more love. And now I've got another one that is a sequel in what is turning out to be a long-running franchise, because there's another one coming out later this year, I believe. And that is going to be Insidious: The Last Key. Now, a lot of people got turned off with the Insidious movies after Insidious Chapter 2. I don't know why, because I like that movie. But I understand, you know, they're not for everyone. The first one was really good. People felt let down with the second one. Fine by me. The Last Key is really good. First of all, the the keyhole demon or whatever they call it. I think that's what they call it. Wow, that is Javier Botet as the gentleman that is in the get up for the demon. He also was the crooked man in The Conjuring 2, and he also was the leper in It and It Chapter 2. So he does this kind of work really like awesome. He's fantastic. It's a very memorable demon. You really get to focus in on Lynn Shay in this movie. This movie is her movie, and I love that. I absolutely love the character of Elise. I love getting the backstory, you know, her childhood and what shaped her to become what she became. And I think that there's just, although I don't think this movie is as scary as maybe the first one, definitely not, I do think there's some really eerie set pieces and suspenseful, drawn out moments in this movie that I think just are super effective, and they hit all the right notes. And this movie's so underappreciated because it's in a long-running franchise. So having been in that long-running franchise, people kind of get burnt out after a few sequels, and you know, you get to 4 and 5 and whatnot, and people are like, I'm not even going to, you know, bother with it. If you have not watched this movie, I implore you to check out Insidious: The Last Key, because I think that this movie is criminally underappreciated. And again, I didn't say underrated because there was fanfare about it leading up to its release. Oh, a new Insidious movie, and it made money at the box office, but it feels like it just came and went and people didn't talk about it. I think it's really damn good. So if you are not a fan of this movie, check it out. If you didn't love this movie, well, I don't know what to tell you. I can't tell you you're wrong, but you're not right. And next is a Ty West gem that I found one late night after I got off work, and I was looking for horror movies to stream that I had never seen. I actually watched it on my phone in the dark at like 2 a.m. by myself. And this had a profound impact on me. And I know a lot of people aren't aware of this movie. Ty West is more of he's a more under the radar director anyway. But my God, The Innkeepers. I love The Innkeepers. And I showed this movie to a few people and they did not have the reaction I did. They're like, oh, that was boring, you know, blah, blah, blah. Stop, okay? The thing Ty West does with this movie that is super well done and effective is building that building that tension, building that suspense. You know, we go damn near an hour or so into the movie before it really hits the fan. And I love that because that final act, when you actually get to see stuff and stuff starts happening, it feels earned. And not enough horror films today do that. Not enough horror films today have the restraint to say, we're going to hold the good stuff back. We're going to sprinkle things here and there to get you excited, to work you up. But we're going to hold the good stuff back. And when they unleash it, man, they unleash it. I love this movie. I think this movie is fantastic, just like House of the Devil. He is a very good, underrated filmmaker, but this movie is very underappreciated. I do not hear this talked about enough. The Innkeepers. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? If you have seen it and you love it, great. If you have seen it and you didn't love it, watch it again, because I think this movie is underappreciated. It deserves more love. And now we're at the last two. I'm going to save the best for last, because I can go on a rant about the last one, okay? But the fifth one I want to talk to you guys about, and I know this is going to be controversial for some, okay? So hang in there for a second. Hear me out. The Thing. The prequel from 2011, The Thing. Now, let's be honest with ourselves here. This is not a bad movie. The issues people have with this movie are the lack of practical effects. It's all CGI. That's like the biggest issue you hear about this movie. Not a bad story, not poorly acted, but an overabundance of CGI. And why does that drag this movie down for so many people? Because the first movie, John Carpenter's movie, which happens to be a remake, was known for its practical effects. And that's why that movie, I think, aged so well. Whereas this movie might age more poorly because the CGI might seem a little dated. Having said that, it's a good movie. It is a good movie. It serves as a nice companion piece to John Carpenter's film. It really rolls into the beginning of The Thing so well. So well. It lines up perfectly. Every last detail from John Carpenter's movie is followed in this. You know, from the hatchet that's in the wall, or, I mean, every last detail that you can tell the filmmakers, the creative team behind this really wanted this to feel like a good companion piece to John Carpenter's film. And sue me, but I think it is a great companion piece. I think it's a good movie. I really do. If this had practical effects, it'd be a great movie. But this movie is very underappreciated because it's just taboo anyway to, you know, try to build upon John Carpenter's film. I get it. But it's not a remake, and it is very loyal and faithful to the film that came before it. So, 2011's The Thing. I think it's damn good. And that sets the stage for what I think, at least in recent memory, definitely not of all time, but one of the most underappreciated horror movies in recent memory for me. I put this in my top 5 horror movies of all time. I think that this movie is brilliant in every way. I think it is better than the original. The first one. And that is Dr. Sleep. Here's the problem with Dr. Sleep. Here's why I say it's underappreciated. This movie came out in the middle of the height of the Joker. You know, Joker had just come out. It was annihilating the box office. This came out like a week later or so, 2 weeks later, and like the marketing wasn't there for it. Not enough people knew it was a sequel to The Shining, and it underperformed. You know, go figure. If you don't market your movie correctly, it's going to underperform. And if you drop it next to a juggernaut, go figure. Regardless, having said all of that, this movie deserves to be talked about more. This movie is brilliant. Brilliant. It is so well written, so well acted. The climax, when you finally get to the Overlook, feels earned. It's beautiful. I mean, every last detail is nailed. Every last detail. This movie was made as a labor of love. You can tell. Ewan McGregor is brilliant in the movie. I don't have complaints about this movie. It's one of those movies to me where I'm just like, now that movie kicks ass. Just all of it, all of it, all of it. I just genuinely love this movie so much. And I don't hear it talked about enough. I don't hear people just absolutely throwing their hand in the pile and saying, yes, I agree, Dr. Sleep is fantastic. It needs more love. Dr. Sleep, I could talk about it for days. I love this movie. It is underappreciated. It flew under the radar far too much. It is time for people to watch and appreciate this film. And that's all I have to say about that. All right, so if you made it to the end, congratulations, you made it to the end. This is my obligatory plea to ask you to comment down below and let me know what are some truly underappreciated films that you love, because believe me, there are hundreds. Also, make sure to leave a like on this video. Help your boy out with the algorithm. Help show your love for me giving my time to put this content out for you guys that I hope you enjoy. You know, if you feel like it. And if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. Or if you're somebody that watches me all the time, but you've never hit subscribe, it's right there. Hit subscribe. Check me out on Patreon. I've got my new series that I'm starting on Patreon dropping today, which is going to be What I Watched This Week. It's a patron exclusive that I'm going to do once a week just for my patrons. So head on over to patreon.com. Look for the Lost River Drive-In. There I am. Pledge your support to the channel on patreon.com. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Have a great night. And this is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In. And I am pulling out.